Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I am Munib Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. The International Atomic Energy Agency says Iran intends to start enriching the uranium to 20% purity level. In a statement, the IAEA said Tehran has informed the agency about its plans to comply with a law recently passed by Iran's parliament. Iran began breaching the 2015 agreement after President Trump took the US out of the deal and reimposed crippling sanctions. In India, the protesting farmers have warned of shutting malls and petrol pumps in the Haryana state if the January 4 talks fail. The farmers' union said they will hold a tractor march on January 6 towards New Delhi. Farmers' protest against the new farm laws and for the minimum price support has now entered the second month. China says its relationship with the United States has reached a new crossroad. In an interview, Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the U.S. policies have harmed the interests of both countries. He urged the U.S. to respect social system and development path chosen by China and learn lessons to resolve the conflicts. The number of coronavirus cases in the United States has crossed 20 million with over 347,000 deaths. Brazil's death tally has surpassed 195,000 while its infections tally has exceeded 7.7 million. Pakistan has reported over 2,100 new cases and 82 fatalities overnight, with its death tally crossing 10,200. Globally, the virus has taken more than 1.8 million lives and infected nearly 84 million people. And in cricket, Pakistan's captain Babar Azam has been ruled out of the second and final test against New Zealand. Pakistan Cricket Board says the cricketer has failed to recover from a right thumb fracture. The Green Shirts are determined to make a strong comeback in the final test starting tomorrow after suffering defeat in the first test by 101 runs. These were the headlines. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. The International Atomic Energy Agency says Iran intends to start enriching uranium to 20% purity level. In a statement, the IAEA said Iran plans to carry out enrichment at its Fordo fuel enrichment plant. The IAEA said in its letter of intention to the agency that Iran has not specified when the enrichment activity will take place. The agency added this enrichment level will be a major breach of the 2015 nuclear deal, which binds Tehran to enrich only 3.67%. The IAEA said Iran has informed the agency about its plans to comply with a law recently passed by Iran's parliament. Now, Iran's parliament passed the bill to upscale the level of enrichment after the assassination of its top nuclear scientist, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. Iran began breaching the deal after President Trump took the US out of it and reimposed crippling sanctions. Now, in India, the protesting farmers have warned of shutting malls and petrol pumps in the Haryana state if the January 4 talks fail. The two sides remain deadlocked at the assurance of minimum price support and the repeal of 3 farm laws. The farmers' union said if the talks fail, they will hold a tractor march on January 6 towards New Delhi. Farmers said only 5% of their issues have been discussed in the meetings with the government. A formal committee slammed the government as pro-corporate intellectuals discussing the compromise formula. Farmers have also announced multiple protest actions ahead of the Republic Day celebrations. Farmers hidden on the outskirts of the capital, New Delhi, has now entered its second month. Now moving to Azerbaijan, where a civilian has been killed in an explosion caused by an Armenian landmine. Officials said the blast occurred in the Fuzuli province, liberated from the Armenian occupation. In a statement, the Chief Public Prosecutor's Office said the civilian succumbed to the wounds as he stepped on a mine. An investigation has been launched into the incident. The public has been warned against entering the liberated areas until the region is cleared of mines. The Azeri Defense Ministry said the violations by Armenian forces have killed and injured numerous Azerbaijani civilians and soldiers. Meanwhile, in Palestine, new efforts are underway to resume the multilateral reconciliation dialogue among various Palestinian factions for national unity. Hamas Political Bureau Chief Ismail Haniyeh said national unity is the cornerstone of confronting the Zionist occupation. In a statement, he said the reconciliation will counter Israel's intentions to harm Palestinians' rights. He said Hamas is establishing internal and external contact with Fatah and other parties to turn the dialogue into success. Haniyeh urged all the Palestinian factions to eliminate differences to counter the US and Israeli steps against the Palestinian cause. Also, the Israeli forces have fired rubber bullets and tear gas shells at a protest in occupied West Bank, injuring at least 16 Palestinians. The protests were held against illegal Israeli settlements in the Ramallah city. The Israeli drones fired dozens of tear gas canisters to disperse the protesters. The protests were held against the Israeli settlements in the Deir Jarir. More than 400,000 Jewish settlers currently live in over 250 illegal settlements in the West Bank. International law views both the West Bank and East Jerusalem as occupied territories. Moving on now, China says its relationship with the United States has reached new crossroads. Foreign Minister Wang Yi said Washington and Beijing's ties can get back on the right track following a period of unprecedented difficulty. In an interview, Wang said the recent U.S. policies have harmed the interests of both countries and brought huge dangers to the world. He urged the U.S. to respect social system and development path chosen by China and learn lessons to resolve the conflicts. He said Beijing is aware of some of the American apprehensions about China's rapid growth, but Washington's about Xi's the opportunity to engage in talks. Ties between the world's biggest economies have come under strain amid a series of disputes over trade, human rights, and the origins of COVID-19. Meanwhile, U.S. Congress has voted to override President Donald Trump's veto of $740 billion defense policy. The override marks the first during Trump presidency. The Republican-controlled Senate voted 81-13 for the National Defense Authorization Act. Earlier, the Democrat-led House also voted overwhelmingly against the veto of the bill. Responding to the vote, President Trump specifically took aim at the issue of liability protection. In a tweet, he said the Senate missed an opportunity to eliminate protections extending unlimited power to big tech firms. He also slammed lawmakers for rejecting his call to increase COVID relief payments to $2,000. The override comes just 2 days before a new U.S. Congress is due to be sworn in. Now, the number of coronavirus cases in the U.S. has crossed 20 million, with over 347,000 deaths. Globally, the virus has taken more than 1.8 million lives and infected nearly 84 million people. More on coronavirus in this report.
As the world ushered in 2021, it hoped for leaving the deadliest months of coronavirus pandemic behind. However, right on first day of New Year, many new states set new grim records of COVID-19 cases and deaths. In Latin America, Brazil's death tally has surpassed 195,000, while its infections tally has exceeded 7.7 million. Mexico reported over 11,000 new cases and 700 additional fatalities in a day. In Europe, France registered over 19,000 new infections and 133 deaths over the past 24 hours. In the UK's capital, London, all primary schools are set to close for start of new term after government bowed to legal pressure from local authorities amid surging cases. While Ireland said it underreported its cases by thousands as its system came under strain, suggesting that EU's fastest growing outbreak is worsening even more rapidly than figures showed. Arrival to Turkey from the UK have been temporarily suspended after 15 confirmed cases of the COVID-19 variant were found in the country. The US's top health expert Dr. Anthony Fauci says Washington will not follow London's decision to prioritize giving vaccines first dose to the most high-risk group and allow the second dose to be given up to 12 weeks later. Meanwhile, World Health Organization chief has urged the world to walk the last miles of the pandemic together and help the underprivileged.
Do we ignore the lessons of 2020 and allow insular, partisan approaches, conspiracy theories and attacks on science to prevail, resulting in unnecessary sufferings to people's health and society at large? Or do we walk the last miles of this crisis together, helping each other along the way?
Over in Asia, India has approved AstraZeneca's vaccine for emergency use, paving the way for its rollout in the world's second worst affected country. The Tokyo metropolitan government is set to ask central government to declare a state of emergency following a resurgence of COVID-19 cases. Meanwhile, Australia's most populous state of New South Wales has imposed even tighter restrictions as its coronavirus clusters keep expanding.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 82 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to over 10,258. The Health Ministry has reported 2,184 new infections overnight. Meanwhile, more than 35,000 active COVID-19 cases have been detected in the country. The ministry says out of over 484,000 countrywide cases, more than 438,000 people have recovered. The ministry said over 216,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province. Punjab has reported nearly 139,000 cases. Now, in the U.S. state of Georgia, over 3 million ballots have already been cast in the runoff race for two crucial Senate seats. The election on January 5 will decide which party controls the 100-member chamber. The turnout figures compiled by U.S. Elections Project indicate strong voter interest. According to the project, the early votes amount to 38.8% of the total registered voters in the state. Republicans will retain their slim majority in the Senate if they win one or both the seats. If Democrats win both the seats, the Senate will split 50-50, giving Vice President-elect Kamala Harris the tie-breaking votes. Now, a U.S. federal judge has rejected a lawsuit from a Republican congressman, Louis Gohmert. The lawsuit sought to allow Vice President Mike Pence to reject Electoral College votes on January the 6th. The latest long-shot attempt by President Trump's allies to overturn Biden's win was dismissed by the judge appointed by Trump. The judge ruled that the plaintiffs lacked legal standings to bring the case. Gohmert's suit also asked the judge to bar Pence from following the Electoral Count Act of 1887, which lays out how objections to votes are handled by Congress. The U.S. Congress is set to meet on the 6th of January to certify President-elect Biden's win over Trump. Now, the U.S. has added a Cuban bank to its restricted entities list, alleging it has links with Cuban military. State Department said Banco Financiero's international profits helped fund Cuba's interference in Venezuela. In a statement, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the move will prevent Cuban military from benefiting from financial transactions. The placement of BFI on the list bars U.S. companies from making direct financial transactions with it. Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez rejected the move as a punitive measure. In a tweet, he said it aimed to tighten Washington's blockade against Cuba. Since taking office, President Donald Trump has ruled back a detente with Cuba pursued by the Obama administration. Now, in the U.S. state of Philadelphia, a group of revelers celebrated New Year's Day in their own traditional way of Mummers Parade despite COVID-19 ban. Local media says the participants marched in South Philadelphia to protest the event's cancellation by city officials. It has been the first time in decades that the annual parade was cancelled. However, the revelers marched on the streets calling the parade as protest. The structure of the event was done as a protest to have constitutional protection. Philadelphia's annual Mummers Parade goes back to 120 years. More news coming up in this bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back now. Moving on with the news stories. In Russia, oil production has decreased to over 512 million tons in 2020. After 2008 global crisis, the extraction was halted for the first time in the pandemic. According to Energy Ministry data, the reading for 2020 was the lowest since 2011. Russia, along with organizations of the petroleum exporting countries, had agreed to reduce its oil production in April. The country decided to reduce production by more than 2 million barrels per day to avoid coronavirus fallout. Following the new year, OPEC and Russia will increase their oil output. Now, rescuers have found a body in a search for 10 missing people after a landslide in southern Norway. Talking to media, a spokesperson for the Norwegian Energy Directorate said the landslide was bin quick clay slide. She added this is the largest landslide in the recent times in Norway. Officials said the Swedish specialist team has been helping the rescue operation, while police said more than 1,000 people have been evacuated from the affected region. It said another 10 people have also been injured in a landslide in the residential area of Gjerdrum municipality. Prime Minister Erna Solberg said her thoughts went out to the victims' family and to those missing ones. Now, in Ethiopia, National Human Rights Commission says security forces have killed over 75 people during the ethnic unrest in June and July of 2020. Nearly 200 were injured during the unrest in the last 2 months. In a report, the Commission said overall 123 people have been killed and 500 injured in one of the worst outbreaks of ethnic violence. It said some victims were beheaded, tortured and dragged in the streets by the attackers. The Commission said the actions are systematic attacks against civilians, leading to crimes against humanity. It said civilians were attacked inside their homes by individuals and grouped culprits. The report said over 6,000 people have been displaced and 900 properties looted, burned or vandalized amid unrest. Now, the worldwide death toll from the aviation incident has risen in 2020. A report by a Dutch consulting firm has said the number of crashes fell by more than 50%. Aviation consulting firm 270 said 40 plane crashes incidents last year killed 299 people, whereas in 2019, 257 people died in 86 incidents. The decline in crashes came amid a sharp drop in flights due to the coronavirus pandemic. More than half of the deaths were the 176 people who were killed in a Ukrainian plane shot down by Iran in January 2020. The second deadliest incident was the May crash of a Pakistani airliner, killing 98. Aviation had its safest year in 2017 with only 13 deaths in a 2 turboprop accidents, but no fatal crashes of passenger jets. Now, hundreds of birds have died after New Year's Day celebrations in the Italian capital of Rome. The International Organization for the Protection of Animals said it appeared that the incident took place due to loud displays of fireworks. The organization said the birds may have died from fear, heart attack and hitting windows or electric power lines. The cause of the deaths of birds has not been determined yet, but animal rights groups have termed it as a massacre. The video of dead birds has been surfacing in social media and people are calling it pure barbarism against animals. Now, in China, crowds bid adieu to the year 2020 that took thousands of lives with it. The festivities come 12 months after the World Health Organization confirmed the Chinese city Wuhan as the epicenter of COVID-19 outbreak. Details in this report.
In China, people get into festive spirits to ring in the year 2021. Large crowds in Wuhan took to the streets to celebrate the arrival of 2021 after a deadly year marked by the pandemic, whereas the south city of Shenzhen arranged a concert to mark the advent of New Year and to add to the celebrations.
Last year in 2020, it's true we suffered a lot, but we've come back since then. I also hope that there won't be anything like that this year, and I hope that everyone across the world is well.
The concert presented an audio-visual feast featuring excellent performances and stunning visual effects for the audience. Titled Sailing in the Greater Bay Area, the concert was staged to revel in the achievements and to bolster prospects in the region after a tough year.
1, 2, 3, 2.
I hope that in 2021 I can achieve peace, feel at ease, and do well at many things, and not to forget all about those not so happy memories from 2020.
The COVID-19 epicenter Wuhan has been virus-free for months, and lately the city has started vaccinations. However, a recent spike of cases in various Chinese cities has reminded people that the pandemic is not over yet.
From the highways to the skies, Pakistan's world-famous truck art has gone airborne. Details in this report.
Pakistani truck art is one of the country's best-known cultural exports. Paintings on wide-ranging themes with vibrant color palettes have inspired galleries and prompted stores all over the world to sell miniatures. After decorating the Pakistani highways for decades, the art is now set to grace the wings, tails and cabins of aeroplanes, as the Flying Academy is painting a two-seater Cessna aircraft with a colorful technique.
As I mentioned, we have 8 aeroplanes, and we have planned some library or another for different aeroplanes, and these are ideas with regards to promoting the tourism for the country and promoting the software image.
Trained by his father, Haider Ali is one of the most prominent truck painters in Pakistan. Haider has been decorating trucks since his childhood. He is dispensing invaluable knowledge to his students now.
This
is a fabulous experience. My students also got a chance to learn. It is a new thing for us. My students and I are enjoying this experience. There is not much difference between a truck and an airplane. I have always wanted to paint an aircraft, and God fulfilled my wish.
Over the years, the truck art has also served as an important, bold and visible medium of expressing diverse voices on multiple socio-political issues, home and abroad.
Now, India's trade deficit has widened to over $15 billion in December 2020. The Commerce Ministry said decline resulted due to contraction in petroleum, leather and marine sectors. It said the country's exports declined marginally by 0.8% to $26.89 billion in December 2020. Meanwhile, the imports grew by 7.6% to $42.6 billion. The country's merchandise exports fell by 15.8% as compared to last year. Imports between April and December 2019 to 2020 stand above $364 billion. Now in cricket, Pakistan's national team captain Babar Azam has been ruled out of the second and final test against New Zealand. The match is starting tomorrow in Christchurch. Pakistan Cricket Board says the cricketer has failed to recover from a right thumb fracture. In his absence, Mohammad Rizwan will lead the side. The green shirts are already missing opener Imamul Haq. The Pakistani side is determined to make a strong comeback after suffering defeat in the first test by 101 runs. New Zealand is currently leading the two-match series 1-0. With 7 straight test wins, the Kiwis are aiming top spot in World Test rankings by securing a win in the second test. In football, Manchester United beat Aston Villa 2-1 in their Premier League face-off. Bruno Fernandes' 61-minute penalty secured a decisive lead for United. Fernandes drilled his 11th league goal this season into the bottom corner to seal his side's victory. With this win, United have joined the Premier League leaders Liverpool with 33 points. Meanwhile, in another fixture, West Ham United defeated Everton 1-0. Thomas Suchek tapped in home for West Ham in the 85th minute of a largely uneventful game at Goodison Park. Everton, who won their previous 4 league games, missed out on climbing to second in the table. 5 Manchester City players have tested positive for COVID-19. Team manager Pep Guardiola said the players will miss tomorrow's Premier League game against Chelsea. Talking to reporters, he said City had a good enough squad to take on a tough component in Chelsea. The club said striker Gabriel Jesus and defender Kyle Walker tested positive last week, but Guardiola did not disclose the names of 3 other players. Meanwhile, Chelsea boss Frank Lampard also reported 2 positive cases but said they were not players.
Well, it's you are less in touch. The players are not in the locker room anymore right now, and just we see us in the training in the pitch, and it's what it is. So we have a good squad, enough squad to go there and try to compete against a tough opponent. We know with Chelsea how it is, and we're going there to play our game.
And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the globe. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.